Keanu Reeves is often regarded as one of the most down-to-earth and genuine stars in Hollywood. Known for his humble nature, kindness, and low-key lifestyle, he's a person who doesn't need the spotlight to shine. However, on the set of the Steve Harvey show, the energy was palpable, and an interview that started lightheartedly soon turned into an emotionally charged moment. Not just for Keanu, but for the audience as well. When Keanu walked on stage, the audience expected the usual celebrity banter, Hollywood stories, and a few laughs. Steve Harvey, with his signature charm and humor, was ready to guide the conversation as he usually does. But as soon as Keanu sat down, something shifted. There was a moment of silence as both Steve and Keanu locked eyes, and Steve noticed the crucifix around his neck. From that instant, the atmosphere changed. What was meant to be a typical interview quickly turned into something far more profound. Keanu's calm and measured demeanor, so typical of him, took center stage. In his quiet voice, he shared a story that had remained private for a long time. "Can I tell you something I've never revealed in public?" he asked, with an almost hesitant smile. The studio lights dimmed slightly, and the audience could sense that this was about to be a moment of raw honesty. Keanu's words weren't just about his career or the usual Hollywood stories. He began talking about something much deeper: humanity, kindness, and faith. As the conversation unfolded, it became clear that this was no ordinary celebrity interview. Keanu, who had experienced more than his fair share of personal loss and grief, began to speak with a wisdom that went beyond his years. He revealed how he had lost people he loved: his sister to leukemia, a partner, and a child. Yet despite all the pain, he was still here, still living. And every day, he made the choice to rise above the darkness that life had thrown at him. "I guess I've always felt that none of this is promised," Keanu said. "I've lost a lot. And when you lose people you love, when life shakes you to the core, you realize that none of it makes you better than anyone else." The audience sat in silence, captivated by his words, feeling the weight of his truth. Steve, too, was visibly moved by what Keanu was sharing. Steve had heard about Keanu's acts of kindness. The way he gave up his seat on the subway, helped crew members on set, and donated portions of his salary to support those behind the scenes. But hearing Keanu speak about it in such a quiet, unassuming way made it clear that for him, these weren't grand gestures. They were just the right thing to do. "Everybody's going through something," Keanu added. "Sometimes the smallest gesture can change someone's entire day." Steve nodded, his eyes glistening with emotion. Keanu's words weren't just about kindness. They were about something much deeper: the power of vulnerability and the courage to face pain. It was clear that Keanu had come to terms with his grief in a way that allowed him to embrace the humanity of those around him. As the conversation continued, Keanu spoke about the role of faith in his life. He talked about silence and how it had been a companion during some of his darkest moments. Steve, sensing the spiritual depth of the conversation, gently asked, "You ever hear God in that silence?" Keanu paused, taking a deep breath before responding. "Yes, I believe in something greater. I've questioned it. I've walked away from it. But even in the deepest darkness, I could feel something. A presence, a peace. Not always loud, not always comforting, but always there." It was this moment, this raw vulnerability, that touched the hearts of everyone watching. Keanu's openness about his faith and the comfort he found in silence and presence resonated deeply with the audience, especially those who had faced their own struggles. Keanu's message wasn't about having all the answers. It was about the power of simply being present, embracing your pain, and allowing it to shape you into something softer, something more human. The interview concluded with a powerful moment of connection between Steve and Keanu. A hug that wasn't just about two men, but about two souls who had shared a moment of deep understanding. It was a reminder that even in the midst of pain and loss, there is hope, there is healing, and there is faith. Keanu Reeves is known not only for his successful Hollywood career, but for his deep sense of humility and kindness, which set him apart from many other celebrities. He has become a symbol of what it means to remain grounded, even amidst overwhelming fame. Throughout his career, Keanu has demonstrated time and time again that he is not interested in the trappings of celebrity. He is much more focused on living authentically, helping others, and making the world a better place, even in small, quiet ways. During the interview on The Steve Harvey Show, Steve brought up Keanu's reputation for kindness. This isn't something that Keanu himself actively seeks to highlight or brag about, but it has nonetheless become a hallmark of his character. From giving up his seat on the subway to helping the crew on set, Keanu's generosity has been widely documented. These are not the types of grand gestures that make headlines, but they carry immense weight in how they reflect his character. For Keanu, it's not about seeking recognition. It's simply about doing what's right. Steve shared a story about Keanu giving away portions of his salary to support the crew members working on the Matrix films, ensuring that stuntmen, camera operators, and even makeup artists were properly compensated. Keanu, however, downplayed these acts, referring to them as nothing extraordinary. "To me, it's just the right thing to do," Keanu humbly stated. This humility is a central part of Keanu's appeal. He doesn't seek accolades for his good deeds. Instead, he does them quietly, without expectation of praise or reward. The idea of kindness, especially in Hollywood, can sometimes seem like a rarity. Celebrities often become caught up in their own success, but Keanu's refusal to succumb to fame's pressures is a testament to his authenticity. His generosity is not about seeking validation from the public. It's simply about acknowledging that we all have a responsibility to be good to one another. The simple, everyday acts of kindness that Keanu engages in show that we don't need to be in the spotlight to make a difference in the lives of others. Keanu's humility isn't just about how he treats others, it's about how he sees himself. Despite being one of the most well-known actors in the world, Keanu refuses to let fame define him. He remains focused on his personal values and what truly matters to him: his relationships, his well-being, and his ability to help those around him. This focus has allowed him to navigate the highs and lows of life without losing sight of what really matters. The audience on The Steve Harvey Show was clearly moved by Keanu's sincerity. His selflessness and humility were a reminder that fame doesn't have to change who you are. Keanu, by simply being himself, is a role model for how we can all strive to live with integrity and compassion, regardless of our circumstances. In a world where everything moves at a rapid pace, silence often feels like a rarity. For many people, silence can be uncomfortable, a void that needs to be filled. But for Keanu Reeves, silence has been an essential part of his life and spiritual journey. It's a space where he finds clarity, peace, and the ability to process his emotions. Keanu's connection to silence became apparent during his interview with Steve Harvey. When asked about how silence had played a role in his life, Keanu spoke with profound depth. He explained that, over the years, silence had become a companion, something that helped him navigate the challenges he faced. "Silence has been my companion for a long time," Keanu said. "But in that silence, sometimes I hear the clearest things." Silence for Keanu is not an absence of sound. It's a presence that allows him to reflect, to listen to his own thoughts, and to process the pain and joy he experiences. It's in those quiet moments that Keanu feels closest to himself and to the world around him. In a society that often values constant noise and stimulation, Keanu's appreciation for silence is both refreshing and thought-provoking. This connection to silence also reflects Keanu's ability to embrace life's challenges with grace and introspection. Instead of seeking distractions to avoid pain, Keanu has learned to sit with his emotions, to let them wash over him and shape him. He's faced immense personal loss, the death of his sister, the loss of a child, and the end of significant relationships. Through all of this, silence has provided a space for healing. It's not the kind of healing that comes with immediate answers or dramatic transformations. It's the kind that comes with time and reflection, the kind that allows for growth. Keanu shared that, in some of the darkest moments of his life, when he felt completely lost and disconnected, silence was what helped him find his way back. It was in those quiet moments that he found the strength to keep going. "Sometimes, the smallest gesture can change someone's entire day," he added, hinting that even the smallest moments of silence and stillness can have a profound impact. This reflects a broader truth. Silence is not the absence of something. It's the presence of everything. In silence, we find ourselves. We listen to our thoughts, our feelings, and our deepest needs. Keanu has embraced silence as a way of reconnecting with himself, and this practice has helped him remain grounded despite the turbulence of life. Keanu's wisdom about silence is a powerful reminder for all of us. In a world full of noise, it's easy to overlook the power of stillness. Yet, as Keanu's story demonstrates, silence is often where we find the clarity and strength we need to move forward. It's where we learn to accept ourselves and the world around us. Keanu's journey is not just one of personal success or fame, it's a journey of faith, loss, and resilience. During his conversation with Steve Harvey, Keanu shared how his belief in something greater has guided him through some of the toughest times in his life. He spoke candidly about the importance of faith, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in the sense of trusting that there is something bigger at play in our lives, even when we don't understand it. Faith, for Keanu, is not about following a set of rules or subscribing to a particular belief system. It's about trusting in a higher purpose and finding meaning in the face of adversity. "I believe in something greater," he said quietly. "I've questioned it. I've walked away from it. But even in the darkest times, I could feel something. A presence, a peace, not always loud, not always comforting, but always there." This concept of faith as a guiding force through life's challenges resonated deeply with the audience. Keanu's honesty about his struggles and the role that faith played in helping him cope with grief and loss was incredibly moving. He didn't shy away from admitting that he had questioned his faith at times, especially when life seemed unfair and full of pain. Yet, even in those moments of doubt, he felt a quiet presence that kept him going. Keanu's words about faith were not just abstract concepts. They were rooted in his lived experience. His ability to hold on to his faith despite personal tragedy was a testament to his resilience. He explained that faith wasn't about having all the answers or understanding why bad things happen. It was about trusting that there is a greater plan at work, even when life doesn't make sense. Steve, too, found comfort in Keanu's words. In a vulnerable moment, Steve shared his own doubts about whether he was living a life of purpose. He wondered if his comedy and public persona actually made a difference in the world. Keanu's response was both reassuring and profound. "You may not always understand your purpose, Steve, but the way you carry yourself, the way you lift others up, that's what matters." Keanu's message about faith wasn't about religious dogma or rules. It was about connection. It was about understanding that even in our darkest moments, we are never truly alone. Whether we find comfort in silence, in the company of others, or in our faith, there is always something greater guiding us through the storm. This conversation between Keanu and Steve was a beautiful reminder that faith is not just about believing in something. It's about finding a sense of purpose and connection, especially during the most challenging times in life. The Steve Harvey Show episode with Keanu Reeves didn't just focus on Keanu's life and experiences. It also revealed something deeply personal about Steve Harvey himself. Through Keanu's words, Steve was reminded of his own journey and the power of his voice. Keanu's revelation wasn't just a moment of acknowledgement for Keanu's struggles, but an eye-opening moment for Steve as well. Throughout the interview, Keanu shared his admiration for Steve's authenticity and honesty. He pointed out how Steve had used his platform to inspire others, especially when he was at a low point in his life. Keanu told Steve, "You're a minister in disguise." This remark caught Steve off guard, but it was a recognition of Steve's profound influence, an influence that Keanu had felt even before they met. This comment wasn't just a compliment. It was an acknowledgement of the unspoken power that Steve held, a power that was rooted in his faith and his willingness to speak from the heart. Keanu revealed that there was a time when he was going through a dark period in his life, a time when he felt completely lost and unsure of his purpose. At that moment, he came across a video of Steve talking about purpose, faith, and the importance of not wasting pain. It wasn't just the content of the message that impacted Keanu, it was the way Steve conveyed it. The authenticity and raw emotion in Steve's voice helped Keanu find the strength to keep going. "I watched that clip 3 times, Keanu said, recounting the moment. "And the next morning, for the first time in weeks, I got out of bed." These words were powerful because they showed how Steve's message, delivered without any expectation of recognition or praise, had a transformative effect on someone who was struggling. It was a reminder that sometimes it's the smallest acts of kindness and vulnerability that Steve had been questioning his own purpose and whether his work truly mattered. But Keanu's words showed him that his presence and his authenticity had already made a significant difference in the world. He didn't need to change who he was or seek validation. He had already been fulfilling his purpose by simply being himself. In the end, Keanu's message was about embracing vulnerability, faith, and the power of human connection. He reminded Steve that it was not the flashy performances or the grand gestures that mattered, but the quiet moments of honesty and the ability to show up as our true selves. By doing this, we create ripples of impact that extend far beyond what we can see. The final moment of connection between Keanu Reeves and Steve Harvey on The Steve Harvey Show was a powerful one. It wasn't just the culmination of an interview. It was a moment of profound human connection, vulnerability, and faith. As the conversation reached its emotional peak, both Keanu and Steve found themselves standing in a place of mutual understanding and respect. Keanu's words had touched Steve deeply, and Steve's openness had allowed Keanu to share his truth. It was a rare moment where two people who had come from vastly different backgrounds and experiences could come together in a shared space of humanity. The conversation was no longer about fame or celebrity. It was about the deeper truths of life, loss, love, and faith. The emotional gravity of the conversation was not lost on the audience. As Keanu and Steve exchanged words of gratitude and reflection, the atmosphere in the studio shifted. The usual dynamic of the show, where laughter and entertainment took center stage, was replaced by something much more sacred. The audience sat in complete silence, absorbing the weight of the words being spoken. In that moment, Keanu and Steve were no longer just a guest and host. They were two souls who had connected on a deep spiritual level. Keanu's honesty about his struggles, his faith, and his journey had opened a door for Steve to reflect on his own life and purpose. As Steve heard Keanu's words, he realized that his own life, despite the ups and downs, had meaning. He had been carrying a light into the lives of others, even when he didn't fully understand its significance. And so, as the conversation came to a close, Steve turned to the audience, his voice thick with emotion. "Let's pray," he said, his words echoing through the studio. It was a simple yet powerful invitation to reflect on the message that had just been shared. In that moment, the audience felt a deep sense of connection, not just to Keanu and Steve, but to each other. The prayer wasn't just for healing. It was a prayer of gratitude for the power of faith and the ability to be vulnerable, to share our pain, and to heal together. The embrace between Keanu and Steve at the end of the show was a symbolic gesture of this connection. It wasn't a scripted moment. It was real, raw, and deeply human. As they hugged, the audience could feel the weight of everything that had been shared. It was a reminder that no matter how much we may suffer, there is always hope, always light, and always a way forward. In that brief moment of prayer and reflection, the audience was reminded that the most important connections we make are not the ones we seek for recognition or fame, but the ones that touch our hearts and change our lives. The story of Keanu Reeves and Steve Harvey's heartfelt exchange on The Steve Harvey Show is more than just an inspiring moment between two celebrities. It is a powerful reminder of the deep, often overlooked human connection that exists within all of us. In today's fast-paced world, we are constantly surrounded by noise, distractions, and superficial interactions, leaving us disconnected from our true selves and others. Yet, Keanu and Steve's vulnerability on stage demonstrates how, in our most raw and authentic moments, we can find healing, strength, and profound connection. In the midst of personal struggle, grief, or doubt, we often shy away from showing vulnerability. We may feel that we need to hide our pain or wear a mask of strength for fear of judgment or weakness. But Keanu's story shows us that embracing our vulnerabilities and sharing our struggles can be incredibly powerful. It allows us to connect with others on a deeper level and create a sense of shared humanity. Keanu didn't hide from his grief. He acknowledged it, allowing others to see his brokenness and, in turn, inspire healing. In our own lives, we might try to avoid moments of silence or vulnerability, instead focusing on external achievements or superficial successes. But true peace and healing come from allowing ourselves to be seen, without the filters and facades. We often underestimate the power of simply being present with ourselves and with others. Just as Steve's words had an impact on Keanu, our words and actions can profoundly affect those around us, often in ways we don't even realize. Keanu's humility, quiet strength, and ability to reflect on his personal struggles provide a valuable lesson. In times of hardship, we don't always need the loudest voice or the most dramatic gesture to create change. Sometimes, all we need is to sit in silence, embrace our true selves, and allow our inner light to shine. In doing so, we can begin to heal, both individually and together as a society. Let Keanu and Steve's conversation be a reminder. Our most authentic selves, our quiet moments of reflection, and our willingness to be vulnerable have the power to heal the world around us.